beaten track to find solutions.
On the homeward loop of the first 180 Ks in the Ford Carnival City 400 on the East Rand, it was defending champions Evan Hutchison and Anakin Bergman who were looking for win number 3 here, leading by 20 seconds. They were ahead of Cox and Testecher, with Bertolt and Minute in the Atlas Copco Porter third. And they just had to keep it on track as the hoppers had got stuck in mud and they were racing like the devil was chasing them. The national crown, after all, was up for grabs. The Century Properties development back with Matthews and Smith aboard were 5th. With Variawa and Rousseau in 6th, having dropped a place due to a problematic CV boot. Grenier and Birkin were still battling along and in control in the SP and production car class, but were they going too hard, is what everyone was asking. Silwald and Helberg next drove into view and were going so quickly that Paul had to use the road book to shield him from the mud. Woolridge and Scholthammer had prepared the Ford with painstaking thoroughness and were reaping the benefits. They were right up into 2nd place. With Ford stablemates Harkis and Moore staying right in contact. Silwald, Homan and Tony Kaywood up into the top 12 in Class A. Having tied up the national championship, Voss was now also hunting the SP class national crown, but he was too eager.
Yeah, to the right. Yo! Okay, switch the main switch off.
Luckily, no serious damage, and they got the car back on its feet. And teammates Tollefson and Van Zyl were still there to fly the Japanese manufacturer's flag. And the gentleman in harness came out quickly too. Whitehouse and Carlson were up into the top 10 and were steady, if not spectacular. Gary Gillingham in Class A was also driving very smoothly. But it was tough out there, and hitting one of these at the wrong angle and or speed could be the end of a fine day's racing. The De Bruins were still going steadily in the Toyota, but had lost a fistful of places due to some wrong slotting and a few minor problems which slowed them down. And the rocky climb in the military base at Heidelberg was tough on man and machine. Even the specials, built for this stuff, battled here. And there was, despite the sunny skies, still a lot of water to negotiate. This route is never really dry at this time of the year. Terence Marsh and Peter Groenewald hardly noticed, though. The Edenko bat with the Besaidnotes aboard was almost unrecognizable, and the mountains here at the end of the first loop certainly took its toll. With the Regent Racing bat of father and son, Jan and Hendrik Kraai looking for win number 6 out of 8 races in 07, and no one was betting against them doing it. Ferguson and West had got their Ford a little lighter, albeit slightly unbalanced as a result, but they were going well enough and into the top 20. In Class D, Arnold Duplessis and Johan Knox in the BB Auto Nissan were steady as they always are and in second place in class. And ready to pass, it was Archie Rutherford and Craig Doubtfire in the third Atlas Copco. The windscreen wipers were working overtime on the muddier parts of the route, and Kobus van Tonde and Rian Guapa and the Unifreight Ford Ranger had a lot of places to make up after finishing 40th in the time trial. Kopenhagen lads were full steam ahead, while Kutsiela Beskagni and Johan Gerber were trying to conserve their car. Father and son Cliff and Louis Weichelt were also going well in Class D in their Bosel Toyota. With Ramon Besaidnout and Stefan Locke, despite a bent steering arm, were heading for the designated service point. Berthold and Robin Houghton took their time penalties and were screaming up the batting order, but had a lot of traffic to contend with. In the mountains, it was best to take it easy and get the car out in one piece. This section had to be negotiated again in the afternoon, thus Valla had to stand back for safety this time. Fabio Tofani and Alan Deerling in their Toyota got through unscathed, but tyres here were a great worry, and some teams were already on a spare or two. In Class E, Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro were looking for a finish and then a podium, and they were protecting the Ford Ranger big time. Conversely, Thomas Rundle lost the Dunlop part of his car, but was sure that he would bounce back. Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux had to dodge the offending part, but they were going well and dominating in Class E. On the way to the designated service point, it was still Hutchison and Bergman who were leading. Grenier ahead in the production car class, but Woolridge and Schulthammer were closing in. At DSP, the Motorride crew were ready to take a 15-minute break and repair what little there was to repair. Hutchison had been doing some low flying. It was a hive of activity, but in this squad, unlike the All Blacks, everyone knows exactly what they have to do. Matthews and Smith steamed in next, 5 paces up from where they started in the morning, but Evan was not even racing.
We're still in the lead at the end of the first lap, which is a miracle because most of the time we've been lost. We haven't really known where we've been going the whole lap. So apparently everybody's really close because I don't know. Obviously the guys who made it back have done well just to find their way back in here. We've had quite a few closed gates, bunting where we're meant to go through, so it's been really, really difficult now. But we've made it through the first lap. We're still in the lead, which is what we need to be. I don't know where Harper is, which is the person we're racing. But the car's still good, so we'll go out, and if we've made it round once, theoretically we should be able to make it round again. But it really has been very, very difficult just to try and find, and I haven't been racing, we've just been driving, trying to find our way. So we'll go and try and give another lap, yeah.
The Harpers were indeed in 2 minutes and 8 seconds slower than Hutchison, but had a few problems which cost them some time. And Variawa and Rousseau had lost 1 place in the Total Motorsport Porter. Despite a misfire, they had kept it going quite nicely.
No, it's going fine. We passing the guys, falling back again, getting lost. And with the water, we're having a sort of a misfire, I think, wet electric, so it slowed us down a bit. But everything's fine. Guys, 100%. We're just changing a CV boot and we'll be back on the road.
Grenier and Birken's cars sounded awful, but the Toyota had got them there, so it could not have been too serious. Well, Woolridge and Schulthammer were just 3 seconds slower than the prologue winner over the first 180k shift. Grenier was trying to keep it tidy.
Yeah, it's been going quite well so far for us. We've had a clean run up to now. We're battling with the route schedule. You know, we're really getting lost everywhere. But otherwise, we're trying to keep it clean and get it to the end clean. That's our intention at this stage.
And the route book came in for some stick.
Route scheduling as well.
In the Ford enclosure, there was feverish activity as they had 2 contenders right up there.
It's been tough this morning, Started off doing nicely, and you know, we're just making a little bit of error here and a little bit of error there, and we've lost the place every time. So it's been hard punishment, but I've got a problem with the windscreen, the rubber's come out. So all the muddy water's going down the inside of the windscreen, but you know, it's very difficult to see after you've been through mud splash. But I'm sure we're going to sort that out now and have a lot better run on the second lap. And it's still anybody's race. You know, from all my experience here, anybody can win from this point in. So I'm looking forward to the next lap, really going to push it hard. We're going to hold back.
It's not really in Brandon's personality in any case, nor is it in the defending SP champions Woolwich and Scholthammers for that matter.
No, it's good. It's finding the route's difficult, but the circuit's very nice, very nice. It's a bit dusty, but just finding the way, it's a little bit difficult. The odor and the route schedule are not quite calibrated.
And the Ford Ranger, how's it going?
The car's fantastic. No, it really is magnificent. On top of it, we just got one to pass now and we should be there.
For the outgoing national champion, Hannes Grobler, the wet was a little daunting, but as we know, this man can drive in anything. I guess even treacle and mashed potato.
Not too wet. Some places are wet. Where there's little river crossings and things, we get like flayland and it's very wet there. But further on, it's fine.
In the other pit areas, teams were cleaning numbers, refilling and fixing, while the driver and navigator were sitting down and having a quick bite, as well as rehydrating. It's a time to try and relax before hitting the road for the final time in the 2007 season.
Ag ek gaan alright, die navigation is 'n bietjie moeilik vandag. Die roete en die GPS en al die goeie werk nie lekker met mekaar nie. Maar ons gaan alright. Gaan alright, dis ook die roete.
Foss got to DSP despite that half-tuck and a roll of his, which would not have scored many points with any gymnastic judge. The mechanics were trying their best to get it proper again, but Foss had even bigger problems than a little roll.
We rolled the car in the beginning, managed to right it, get going again, and we caught the other guys and we were running in a train and we got lost and we got into a quarry. And we beached the car on a huge rock and it took us about 12 minutes to get it off the rock. So that's where we've lost our time.
It wasn't pretty, but then at the Ford Carnival City 400, it never really is.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Going off the beaten track from ABSA. Going off the beaten track to find solutions.
With just 170 odd Ks of the season left, it was still Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman who were setting the pace for the rest of the field, who by now had been thinned out by more than 30%. By the end of the day, more than 60% of the starters would have failed to see the finish line. And there were many teams who had to do a little bit of tricking to get to a point where they could be rescued. Matthews and Smith were storming along. The Harpers put in a big surge and were up into third fairly quickly, but needed to close the gap to Hutchison even more. And for Variawa and Rousseau, there was now only one way, as hard and as quickly as possible, for as long as possible. Cox and Terstegen were also hard at work and needed to back up their championship-chasing stablemate, Hutchison. For Cronje and Birken, it had been a very good morning, but they needed to capitalize. Unfortunately, they ran out of windscreen fluid and battled to see, an absolute drawback in a race such as this. Mud was treacherous at the best of times. Woolwich and Scholthammer was smelling victory and had begun closing the gap on the Toyota pair. But they also still needed to save the car for the home stretch. For Grobler and Jordan, it was all-out racing.
100 meter, hou reg van die boom en dan dadelik T-right. Ja, reg van die boom en dan T-right daar.
With Harkes and Moore in the second Ford Ranger, doing their word proud by also going out hard and keeping it right there. The Atlas Copco team were having a good race as Berthold and Minute were still firmly ensconced in the top 5. But after 230 Ks, the big move was that the SP battle had haunted up and Cobra and Jordan had pulled Harkis and Moore up with them. The production vehicle race was going to be a struggle to the death. Hutchison and Bergman were now letting it all hang out as the Harpers had got back into 3rd place and they knew the pressure was on. With Matthews and Smith picking what looked like the deepest line through this flay, and it was a big gamble. Luckily, they kept the engine dry. And then the moment that ended the Harper Championship Challenge. There was a deeper line and Nick managed to find it. Meanwhile, Cronje's Toyota was still in with a shot and was going solidly, but he was in twice before the season when leading and within sight of the finish line and couldn't quite pull it off. And to make matters worse for the Toyota pair, Woolridge and Schulthammer was closing the gap and closing it quickly. Krobler and Jordan were on their way to clocking the fastest time of the day on Loop 2 and were themselves heaping the pressure on the two teams in front. And Cox was holding station in 3rd, racing cautiously yet quickly. Harkis and Moore's Ford Ranger was sounding fine engine-wise, but the body had obviously taken a beating. Listen up. And racing in the Ford's considerable dust, it was Gary Berthold and Jeff Minute in the second Atlas Copco. A good return to form for the duo. The Zermattens were hampered by several problems and were eventually forced to call it a day, with the Nissen of Tollefson and Van Zyl still very much in a roadworthy state. The Ryobi Nissen soldiered on, but it was all to no avail. The Regent Racing duo of Whitehouse and Carlson had inched their way up the order and were just sneaking into the top 10. A wonderful drive all the way up from 15th. Back at the gala, which should have been better suited to Rick Neetling and his teammates, Marsh and Groenewald came through next, followed by Sulwalt and Kaywood. Who then promptly did a pirouette just for our cameras. At least, we think so. Foss, too, was clawing his way back after a rather hectic first loop and was back in contention, believe it or not. And in Class B, the Cries were again firmly in control, looking for win number 6. A truly great season. Gillingham and Van Vieren were still motoring along nicely and shooting for a place in the top 10 in the specials. Rutherford and Doubtfire were going well until this huge mistake. It left the two racers nursing a broken arm and sore egos, seeing that it was caught on camera. Thompson and Blakey were having a storming run though and were just outside the top 10 in the specials, all the way up from 19th. Rutherford, normally a very cautious driver, explained how the accident happened.
Well, after the river section, coming to the river, heading for this dam wall here, we had no brakes. I think obviously water got in between the pad and the disc, and that was it. Hit this jump here, flat out in 3rd. and ended up going end over end, I think.
Well, certainly the most spectacular flip we've had this season, and a testimony to the safety features of the specials that there weren't any serious injuries. The Micra and Excel dealer team put together a brilliant second loop, and from 7th in class, they were already one better. But the varying surfaces tested the driver's skills to the nth degree and required great timing and courage. Up front in the production car class, the Ford Racing Ranger with Woolridge and Scholtham had taken the lead after Cronje and Birken had run into trouble, and Kobus van Tonde and Rian Guapa were also making Ford very proud. And for the Class S race title, the Kopenhagen Hotel Super Team had things all their own way. They were 15 minutes ahead of the competition. Beside Norton Locke and the Atlas panel beaters Toyota had moved up 5 places in the production car class and was second in Class D, a fine ride right up the order. In Class E, Visser and Leroux came through from 51st overall after the prologue to clinch 10th place in the production vehicle battle. And Peckham and Santoro also did some giant killing with a wonderful drive from 34th to a 2nd place in class and 12th in the production category, with Glenn Gibson and Mark Whitehurst in their ACECO in 14th place in the specials. Ferguson and West in the 4th Ford Ranger were good enough to get to the finish line in 7 hours and 3 minutes. That gave them 8th in the SP class, with Rundle and Roberts powering the Bowden Tyre Nissan to 4th in Class E. But this one was a race of attrition. At the finish line, though, it was hats off to Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman, who stopped the clocks in 5 hours and 20 minutes to clinch the national championship for Motorrad. They nailed the second loop faster than anyone else. With Colin Matthews and Alan Smith just 6 minutes in arrears. A fine season for these two men who only started driving together at the beginning of the year.
It was tough, eh? This morning was really tough. We were all getting lost and we started really getting despondent and not knowing where to go and not knowing how to race. But today was a day for Motorrad, the team, you know. My navigator today, in a day that was so difficult to navigate, he came through good when we needed him. We managed to get through the whole of the first loop, coming into the pit stop in the lead, which was very, very difficult. But we knew if we could just stay in the lead till the pits, we'd be all right for the rest of that lap, which we managed to do. And we went out in the second loop knowing we had about a 2-minute gap over Nick Harper, who was right behind us. And we pushed really hard at the beginning of the lap. And then I think we got up to about a 6-minute gap where we knew we had it. And we just tried to conserve the car. I heard all the spooks in my head coming and noises in the car and problems with the gearbox. But we just carried on and we got quieter and quieter in the car, knowing it was just getting closer and closer, not wanting to say anything. But honestly, today was for Motorrad, for the team, you know. Chris, who's prepared this car so well. Achim, who's navigated and built the car. You know, what a team. Justin for running the team, for making those decisions that we need to have made. Today's a huge, huge day for Motorrad. It really is. I'm really, really chuffed. Alfie helped me out this morning. When we got lost, he ended up ahead of me. Didn't make it too difficult for me to pass, which has also worked to my advantage. I think he made it a little bit more difficult for the rest of the guys. So it was a day where the whole team came together, and it's a fantastic day. I'm just really, really proud of everybody at Motorrad.
Then Woolridge and Scholthammer crash-landed their Ford Ranger at the finish line, but it was so finished it needed a hand to get back to its resting place. Then a superb drive from the outgoing national champ Hannes Grobler that won his co-driver Francois Jordani's national championship. They were just 60 seconds behind the Ford at the line and clocked the fastest time of the day on Loop 2. Motorrad made it 2 out of 3 when Cox and Tersteger came home in third, 4.5 minutes behind. And a luckless Mark Cronje brought home the Toyota third in the production car class, winless in a year when he could have celebrated 3 victories. The Ford pair were pleased to have ears, otherwise their smiles may have gone all the way round.
Neil, we were talking earlier this morning, this would be the race that you wanted to win.
Well, I must say, as I just said to you, I was beginning to wonder if it was ever going to happen again, because we had a bit of a lean year, you know, so we are to come and win our home race, a Ford-sponsored race. It's fantastic, you know, to finish off the season like that. And it's been frustrating because we've known the car can do it all year, but we've had little niggly little things all along, and I've made a couple of mistakes, and it's been bloody annoying, to be honest. But yeah, today's a good one to bring it home. And we had no problem. When I say problems, we had no communications for the first lap. Something went wrong with my intercom on my side, so I borrowed one of the other guys' helmets at halfway point. Then when we came to take off on the last lap, as we came out the pits, starter motor's dead. So we had to be very careful all the way around, just nursing it, make sure we didn't stall it anywhere, because there are lots of traps out there. And yeah, we did. It got very hot up in the mountains. It went up to 109 degrees, which our car never ever does. So it was a bit worrying, but it started to come down and never got worse. So I realized it must have just been all mud packed up on the front. So yeah, but we happy. It was a hard race, you know, and that Mark Cronje and the Toyota and ourselves, we pushed hard all day. I don't think there was much more than a minute in it. We'd close up, you'd go away a bit, close up, go away, and then yeah, we managed to bring it home. So we're very happy.
And spare a thought for the Harpers, who had a disappointing finish to lose the championship by a bare 9 points. And keep in mind that only 40% of the field finished. A fine victory for the Ford crew in their own race, and Grobler proving that he never gives up, starting 21st overall. Voss stormed back from the dead and took 5th. And in the special vehicle battle, it was the double champion Hutchison who got the nod, and Bergman also won the co-drivers championship. The Harpers, after getting stuck, were 22 minutes off the pace. The championships and a second national title for the likeable Duncan Voss, who will be hard to beat in 2008. And just that 9-point margin for Hutchison over Nick Harper. A special vehicle race in 2008 will be, dare we say it, special. The Manufacturers' Championship was handsomely won by Nissan by 243 points. Until next year, you keep it on the road, we'll keep it off-road.
That was the ultimate